What a lovely day! Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon, crypto, thanks button, and Ko-Fi, I think it's called, link in the info box below the video. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show on Facebook and X. Now we are joined by Refracted Curvature, Neil, the Adam Meakin, Eli, and a whole bunch of people in Discord. So, Eli's dropped already. So, welcome, one and all.
Hello. Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning. Good to have you. Good to have you. Please share the show. I know I've done a call to action already, but we're going to be having a little bit of a different format today. Now, this has only been literally discussed in the pre-show, as we often mention what's been discussed in the pre-show. That's what we're going to do first, which is to say that we, with the new and exciting moving forward into 2024 attitude that Flat Earth Debate is hopefully instilling in some of the audience members as they accumulate in our live stream chat, is to say we want to move forward on the front foot as opposed to on the back foot, reactively, responsively, whatever you want to call it, which is to say when doing our typical shows, or in the last couple of years, say, we will bring up a video and react to whatever is being put forth proactively on whoever's channel by whoever it is. Now, to get us in the mood for doing this, I have suggested that rather than doing it in response to a video, we literally pick up whatever heliocentric priest we happen to want to discuss on that particular day. In this case, we're going to be doing Brian Cox, and we just go through some of our points that we would feel that would be best served addressed by someone of such stature as Brian Cox, and invite them to respond to some of our points, poignant that they are. So we're going to do a bit of housekeeping first, so we'll get onto that in a little bit, but we will do our usual couple of housekeeping questions. So, any evidence of the distance to the sun?
You would have to measure it somehow, wouldn't you?
The false dichotomy that we get told we are supposed to fight for is an idea of getting an actual height of the sun by way of an angle that can only be taken from a flat plane for both parties. So it's another one of those, you tell me how your flat earth works to get an angle to the sun to give us a height at a couple of thousand miles, and I'll tell you how I use an angle in certain circumstances to match with my globe when I use a flat earth angle to match with my globe. So yours doesn't work because it's definitely not 2,000 miles high or whatever it is that flat earthers are strawmanned with. But it does work when I use a flat earth angle to infer that at this particular point in this particular day at this particular time, the angle does match with the heliocentric model that says it's going to be 93 million miles away when I derive a mathematical derivation of an R value that was also measured off a flat plane. So with a couple of flat earth measurements, I can tell you that my version of this false dichotomy on the globe side did win, where yours, because you said you've got a height of the star, which you can't, off a flat plane, failed. Ergo, your flat plane versus my flat plane, but my flat plane's going to win because it's a globe.
Right, the calculations fail for both, though.
Yes, they both fail. Yeah, that's true. We don't have a height. We're not trying to get a height when we use our flat earth proof of celestial navigation and measuring a flat earth with that tool that's known as a sextant to give you elevation angles, not heights. They're very different things.
Yeah, so the measurement for both requires a flat plane, but the calculation will not give you the height of the sun or the distance from the flat plane to the sun.
But if you know the globe model well enough, you can correlate an angle that is only capable of being derived from or measured from a flat plane, because it's an angle, and then correlate that with a 93 million mile sun, again, when you've got the extrapolation of an R value derived from a minimum elevation angle measurement to Polaris, or an Alberuni dip measurement from a flat plane when getting a height off a flat plane, for a height up a mountain when you use a flat plane for your eye level versus a flat plane that is the surface level that you got the height off in the first place. A lot of flat planes get used when you claim a globe. Any scientific evidence of gravity?
As long as they're not claiming things fall down, I don't see how they can even try to describe a natural phenomenon.
I mean, they can show things that do fall down or force things to fall down when taken out of equilibrium. But in so doing, they are automatically inferring that all things with mass go down in line with a 109-year out-of-date mass-attracting mass Newtonian in name-only rhetoric called gravity, superseded by Einstein with a non-force force that you can think of as a force, but it's actually a pseudo-geometry with a fourth-dimensional space-time bending. So again, lots of convolution to mitigate for the fact that if you're standing on a spinning water ball flying through a sky vacuum in violation of the second law of thermodynamics, you have to mitigate for the fact that you're not flying off it with a force that's not a force that you can think of as a force in a 4D space-time, pseudo in nature, named by Einstein.
Well, down's only in relation to a horizontal plane of reference. So, yeah, they can't be claiming that things fall down. That requires a flat Earth to assert. So they would have to say that things fall in.
That's a good point. We'll get to that with Cox. A perfect segue. In terms of their descriptions that require horizontal planes of reference, one of them, for gravity, would require them to always have a plane of reference. Now, maybe they're kicking the can down the road when they describe the universe as flat, but regardless, a flat plane of reference must be utilised for them to even to get close to describing in for the force of gravity when bending a well in space-time in 4D geometry, offering a non-force force that you can think of as a force, but ultimately just gives them enough leverage to slide the scale by 1 from 0. So when you're not doing anything, 0, right? No, 1g. When you're falling, 0. Why? Well, space-time, very complicated. So, Cox, we're going to put forth some of our positioning, some of which has already come in the form of the housekeeping question answers, but there we go. Maybe we'll reiterate them and direct you them specifically so that you have them to start with, which is to say, your orbital motions and mechanics have started life with measurements off a flat plane. The angle measurements to the stars that are inferred to be orbital by motion have been taken in a Keplerian idea, got to be careful with my words, but with measurements taken off a flat Earth. Ergo, all of your heliocentric claim to be on a sphere rhetoric is reification. And the measurements to give you said reification were flat Earth measurements. Right, there's our starting point. Not a bad start, Nathan. Thank you very much, Nathan. You're great. I'm not schizophrenic, but over to you, John.
Are we addressing Cox now?
Absolutely. He's on screen. Hopefully I've spelt his name right and not put him Brain Cox or something, because I did it while the intro was rolling. But he's in the title. He's on screen. We're going to be addressing our points specifically to him for the first half of this show. If we don't get too carried away, we'll see how it goes. So I've started the ball off by saying your orbital motions need a flat Earth. What you got to address to Cox in terms of his general heliocentric, you're standing on a sphere in a sky vacuum rhetoric?
Well, I'd like to address the retro reflectors he claims are on the light in the sky we call the moon.
Perfect.
He said we fired a laser from the surface of Earth at the moon and got a return signal that gave us the distance. The problem with that is the laser had to be leveled and angled at the moon. The level would give you the horizontal plane of reference to get you the angle, but the level that you're using for the laser runs parallel to surface level, which means that your angle is taken from a flat Earth. Firing retro reflector, whatever claim you just made, required Earth to be flat to make it. I'm sorry, Brian, you're wrong.
Well, is that wrong? It's just using flat Earth measurements to infer the reification that Earth is a sphere. And he's wrong when he says Earth is actually spherical, and infers that Earth being spherical would be cause to claim that the moon return signal is based on an orbital heliocentric motion, because he's got return angles, not return angles, he's got, how do you phrase it? First time I've heard this. He's leveling the laser that's being fired to the alleged to be left from a sky vacuum journey, which we're going to get onto next, retro reflectors, and they're having to level the laser to get the 1 or 2 photons they claim to get back as a return.
Yes, and then they're measuring that incident angle of the photon. They're not, they're not seeing a tiny little dot come out from the laser and go to the moon and back. They're just measuring the incident angle of the light's return.
That incident angle requires a horizontal plane of reference. Ergo, at some point, to start this process, you needed to start with a flat Earth.
Absolutely.
Okay, well, let's move on to the retro reflectors. Did one of you, Adam or Neil, want to talk about sky vacuum? Just so it's not me doing or John doing all of it thus far.
I got a separate point.
Yeah, feel free.
Okay. So I'll plug Cox's current UK tour. He's currently back in the UK with a special cinema tour pimping his worldview. It's called Horizons. So, Mr. Cox, given that your tour is called Horizons, I would just like to demonstrate to you that the horizon is nothing more than an optical point of dissolution. That's a fact. It's only if we think we live on a ball that we try to invoke this point as the leading edge of a sphere. And I'd like to cite to you a little argument as flat earthers use. It's called the Black Swan argument. It uses a modus tollens form of logic to evaluate. So I'll just refresh you with it. If P, then Q. Not Q, therefore not P. If the Earth is a sphere with a radius of 3959 miles, P, then every horizon distance measurement must be no more than 1.225 times the square root of the observer's height in feet, Q. The Earth is not a sphere, as we will demonstrate to you. If possible, actually, if I could just quickly share screen, I'd like to show you the Black Swan picture, Brian.
So while Adam's doing that.
And there we go.
Perfect timing.
Okay, so there it is. What we have here is 2 oil rigs. They're of no real interest other than denotation of distance. We have an observer height of 1 foot. Therefore, if we follow the modus tollens, we should have physical Earth curve obstruction, or the horizon, as you call it, at 1.22 miles. We can see we have no obstruction at both 6.2 and 9.4 mile markers. 4 of them are most fundamentally behind them. We can see the horizon. What I'll summarize to say is not Q. The horizon distance is greater than 9.4 miles, therefore not P. Therefore, the Earth is not a sphere. And as I say to you, Brian, most fundamentally demonstrating the horizon is not Earth curve. I'm done.
Perfect. So just to reiterate Adam's point, if the Earth is a sphere with a radius of 3959 miles, then every distance to horizon measurement can be no more than 1.2 times the square root of the observer's height in feet, and the distance to horizon measurement in the Black Swan image shown by Adam a moment earlier is way beyond the physical geometric limitations of an Earth curve edge horizon. As that is the name of your tour, I think it's quite pertinent that you should answer Adam's question first, perhaps, given that you're a sphere believer, and we have debunked the sphere based on its lack of capable measurement of its physical geometry, as laid down in what we have fondly dubbed the begging the question, proof of nothing, perspective hijacking, Earth curve calculator, where it alleges that the marked with an X labelled horizon position is a point of obstruction, with hidden values to claim that there is a limitation, aka hill, getting in your way called Earth curve at the horizon. This is not the case, as Adam has so eloquently gone through. Further to this, Neil, you're a big fan of the sky vacuum, right, Neil? Did you want to put something to Brian Cox? Or are you driving? If not, I'm going to do it. Hey, space is fake. Right, so Neil's
Sorry, driving.
No, that's all right. So, as a follow-up to refracted curvature, his appropriate name is based on Adam's argument, just so you know. His name's John. But he pointed out the retroreflector's angle of incidence, which would require a flat plane in the first instance, to affirm your orbital motions with derivations of R values, also used in the begging the question proof of nothing perspective hijacking Earth curve calculator, when measuring a flat plane to give you said R value. To then infer that you have orbital motion, to take a trip with, I mean, maybe we've got some telemetry for the moon, or maybe they've lost it, but using flat plane measurements off a flat Earth to give you said orbital trajectory information, to travel through a sky vacuum to the moon to drop off these retroreflectors. This is not the case. All astronauts are liars, because to travel into an area of volume known as a vacuum, 10 to the minus 17 torr, would mean that all the gas that we are currently breathing would have never developed gas pressure, because each and every single particle of gas that left the ground would dissipate in line with entropic law into the available volume. Therefore, we would never have had gas pressure to breathe, because we have no containment, and we, according to the heliocentric nonsense model, have a sky vacuum with no containment, violating the second law of thermodynamics. Ergo, space is fake, and all claims that come from a sky vacuum, including trips to the moon and Mars and other lights in the sky, are automatically bunk. A massive lie, which you prop up when you boldly tell your audience, because you've been told to by your producer, that it affirms we have been to the moon when you fired those lasers at the retroreflectors, which are not there, because you cannot travel through a sky vacuum to drop retroreflectors on without killing every occupant of Earth, in a paradox where they already have gas pressure not dispersing into a vacuum in line with entropic law. Space is fake. We haven't been to the moon. Anybody else got anything they want to address to Brian Cox?
Yeah. Well, I also, like, didn't they claim that you can supposedly bounce radio signals off the stratosphere, some kind of sphere part of the Earth's gases that they claim, right? But
Not
like,
they.
if there's something
Stop.
effect like that, they're bouncing
Can you
something
stop,
off
please?
it.
We're talking specifically and directly to Brian Cox. I mean, you're like coming up with some random globe argument that they might perpetuate as Cox put this forward.
I was gonna get to it. It's just that if there's supposedly something bouncing off, giving a signal rebounds, how is that supposed to work with the moon that's out of that stratosphere, right? It's further away, supposedly. Like, but you can get a signal rebounds from within the atmosphere, though. How did you go through it and then get it back from the moon? Sounds like they just pulled a little switch through and just called this stratosphere the moon all of a sudden. Sorry, that was it.
Okay.
I have a supplementary point to Adam's question.
Okay.
Given that the Earth curve calculator that gives you the geometric horizon is dependent upon eye level running parallel to sea or surface level to make the calculations of a geometric horizon, I would like to point out to you, sir, that your belief that the horizon is a physical obstruction comes from measurements from a flat Earth.
Okay, so we'll get into Al Baruni. I'm going to do a bit of a call to action now I'm thinking about it. I want to direct this at Cox. Now, obviously, I'm going to have a nice trimmable section that I can trim up and put his name on again. It's already in the live stream. But typically what we'd do is we'd direct people to go to their video by me clicking on share and asking the audience to go and leave them a comment. I think in this instance, given that he's going to be on a bit of a PR high because he's doing a tour, I think it's appropriate that we should be asking or inviting our audience to let him know via Twitter. What do you think? Can somebody,
Just
one of my
have it-
mods, if you're listening, hopefully you're all perky and paying attention, can somebody dig out Cox, at what Brian Ever Cox Twitter handle is, X account, and pop it in the live stream chat so I can do a little call to action and ask people to just inform him that at Nathan Oakley 1980 on YouTube has, what can we call it? It's not responded, is it? It's proactively poke the bear, but I don't want to put that. How can I phrase it?
Trying to contact you for information.
Let's put some points
it's
towards.
in Twitter. It's at Prof. Brian Cox, and I've put the full webpage link for people.
Perfect. So Adam's just posted the Twitter handle for Brian Cox, right? And that's going by in the live stream right now. So if you're currently, shout out to Steampunk Punk for joining. Yeah, if you're in the live stream chat now, because obviously we are actually live. Hello, by the way. Welcome to the live stream. How many people got? 90, just under. Cool. Great to get to 100. But it'd be nice to actually let, as we tick over 90 viewers, Brian Cox actually be aware. In other words, I want to proactively poke him. Now, we used to call this poking the bear, but we used to do it with our anti-flat earth counterparts in the, is it the Hegelian dialectic? Is that the one? Whatever, the controlled opposition narrative functionality of having two sides that are both pretty much under control and not fighting the ultimate overlords, which we are now poking in the form of Brian Cox. But how's he going to know unless we let him know, right? So that is something I am reliant on you, the audience, to do. But just let him know we have put some points to him or something along those lines. You know, I'll leave it in your careful hands when you get to him. Or just sent me at Nathan Oakley 1980 on YouTube. Sent me. That's good enough, isn't it? Sent me. Why did he send me? It leaves the in this case Brian Cox, the person receiving the message, at least with a little bit of intrigue. Why did they send you? Well, you'll have to find out on YouTube, won't you? But yeah, I think we should be proactively putting these points to people like Cox. So when someone comes to a video like this, newbie on the front foot, like we are, telling them how Earth's measured flat, we're proactively poking Cox to tell him your globe nonsense uses flat Earth measurements. This is a very effective tool. I'm feeling very smug right about now. Let's get over 100 viewers. Please share the show. But yeah, Cox needs telling. You're telling people we're on a globe, but your measurements come from a flat plane. You're telling people we can travel to the moon and we've got retroreflectors, but your sky vacuum violates a law of nature. Now, previously, when we put these things to people like Rumpus, we get responses like, the second law of thermodynamics does not apply to the Earth. What, that law of nature derived from observing things on Earth? Yeah, it does. Just doesn't apply to your globe. Well, I don't want to hear Rumpus tell me that. I want to hear Cox tell me that. Why have you got a second law of thermodynamics violation sky vacuum wrapped around a model that you say we stand on when measuring a flat plane? It makes no sense. Why aren't you telling people we are on a flat plane if that's what we're measuring? Seems crazy that you're getting paid to go on a tour to tell people we're standing on a ball with pseudo-geometry when the pseudo-geometry and indeed the Einsteinian mass attracting mass for a ball requires a horizontal plane of reference also. This seems crazy. Everything you reference that tells people the lie that we're on a ball when we're not references a flat plane for its measurements. He needs telling. So tell him. Let him know. At Nathan Oakley 1980 on YouTube sent me to point out we're on a flat plane. We'll get your comment probably removed. I think we're done. I think that's it. This is a pretty good warm-up. For those of you who might be privy to the pre-show, if you happen to be watching this after the fact and you've just watched the pre-show, we were initially off the cuff going to do Tyson. I said, no, we're going to do this a couple of times before we get to Tyson. You know, I'm not saying that Brian Cox is lower, a lower high priest. He's just a high priest, right? They're all pretty much of a muchness. But when you think of the high priest of high priest, it is actually Tyson, you know. And he's got a special place in my heart because he's such a good magician. Unlike Cox, you know, Cox isn't. If you ever go and listen to, and we've covered it several times, so we're not going to do it today, his traveling to do that exact thing, which is fire lasers at the moon. He's got his producer in the car on the way down, and he doesn't even know why they're going. And the producer's got to lay it out for him and say, the reason we're going here is to affirm that we've been to the moon. Because of course they've been to the moon. If we've got lasers firing it, right, Cox? Right, Cox? You understand what we're doing here? He's like, of course we've been to the moon. Look, Cox, we're here to propagandize people. I'm the producer. Just tell them we've been to the moon because we're firing lasers at it. How dumb are you? Doesn't seem like Tyson needs such ushering, does he? Anyway, any more words on Brian Cox before we potentially move on?
Just one. And I'll probably get shot for not mentioning it because Brian's not here. So on behalf of Brian's logic, I'm sure he would like to ask you the question, do things weigh more or less in a vacuum? And if you did come back to us, that'd be a fantastic thing.
Hell no, I'm not going to allow that.
Demonstration.
Excuse me, I speak on behalf of all of the Irish, I should say. When I say no, he would be far more bullshit and upfront and affirmative in terms of his statement that he made to him, as opposed to the question that he asked of him. Brian wouldn't be asking Cox no questions. He'd be telling him. Let's make that clear. He's Irish.
Right. So, things weigh less in a vacuum, Dr. Cox.
That destroys your paradigm.
Well, no, that would be his claim, Brad. That, Dr. Cox, that would be your claim. Things weigh more in a vacuum, and we would like to point out to you that this does destroy your paradigm, because you invoke that fundamentally gas has weight. This was the case, then things would not weigh more in a vacuum, which is exactly what they do. Given that paradigm destruction, are you able to justify gas having weight, or more fundamentally, claiming that gas go down, go boom, boom?
Yeah, what we're doing is preemptively attacking your mitigation for the sky vacuum, not allowing all of the gas which is at pressure, even though it's not pressing anything, from vacating into the area of volume known as outer space, where you think your rockets go to land on the moon and drop retroreflectors. Well, given that gas does fill space, it's a law of nature, you, Cox, will have to mitigate for this, where your compadres have up until now told us things like the second law of thermodynamics, a law of nature, a description of how things always occur in nature, doesn't apply to the Earth, meaning it doesn't apply to a globe Earth because the gas would fill the space. So the mitigation is to say, oh, we're in a bent 4D pseudo-Riemannian Einsteinian well, because we bend space and time, which isn't a dimension. It's completely pseudoscience nonsense geometry that doesn't apply to the real world. We don't live in a fourth dimension. Nevertheless, given that you can convolute this subject with Einsteinian, pseudo-Riemannian for space-time bending, you can then move the scale by one, from 0, where we're sitting down doing nothing, reasonably described as 0, and call that 1g. Therefore, when falling, you're at 0g, in line with your illusions of orbits also measured off a flat plane in the first instance. So, given that you can describe how things will move to the Earth because of orbital motions and said gravity when moving the scale, you would assert that gas does the same. Go down, go boom boom, go splash splash, like bouncy balls poured into a fish tank. A la PhD Thunderfoot. Now, when describing how gas go down, go boom boom, because it has weight and is not dispersing in line with entropic law into a sky vacuum, it would therefore leave the conclusion that it is producing more weight on an object when being weighed in a vacuum. However, that is not the case. Who's going to give the Irish? Go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was going to point out that he's not allowed to claim weight. That is a movement in a vertical vector with respect to a horizontal plane of reference parallel with the surface level. So he's going to have to find another convention to hijack.
Even if he did try and utilize that convention, Brian's cut it off at the knees because of how things behave when weighed in a vacuum. Do you want to reiterate the actual conclusion in an Irish accent, please, Adam? Because then this rounds out this point and we can move on.
Yeah. If gas had weight, then it would afford a displacement upon the scale, whilst also affording a buoyancy of the object on the scale. The buoyancy and then downward force of the gas, the buoyancy would have to be less. So if you remove the buoyancy and you remove the medium, then the net result would have to mean, or does mean in this, would mean it would weigh less in a ball earth paradigm where gas go down, or actually has weight, where weight is m times g in your claim. This doesn't happen. Things actually weigh more in a vacuum, demonstrating that gas doesn't have weight.
Right.
If it doesn't have weight,
yeah,
then it can't be held to a spinning space pair. This is the point of raising this point. It's your mitigation for space when you oppose the second law of thermodynamics. We have, by demonstration, evidence that rebuts gas has weight.
However, this is an address to a preemptive address to a mitigation that in no way overcomes gas behavior by definition and by explanation within entropic law. That is to say, gas expands to fill space. In all instances, for all gases, always. That is what they do. Gas fills space. Oh, what do you know? You think the sky is space? Outer space, a sky vacuum? Absolutely not. We'd all be dead. The gas would fill the space. Ergo, everybody you prop up that say they've been there are liars. And you are complicit in their lies now that we have informed you proactively. And I encourage my audience to do just that. Please let Brian Cox know at Nathan Oakley 1980 on YouTube sent me to let you know you measure Earth flat. That comment won't last long. Put something else. Sent me. Just sent me. Okay. Right. We've also got a video that Divergent Droid supplied. We've got lots of pictures of Cox now. Check it out after the fact. Got loads of them. I just needed one about 10 minutes ago, and now we've got a bunch. Did we want to do the Hall of Fame for Cox? I'm thinking no. I'm thinking a couple of pictures is fine for you, Cox. You know who you are.
Let's do the first one. Master B is now full of cocks.
It is full of Cox. Okay.
Mike, check. Good morning.
Good morning, Chocolate. How's it going?
That weren't too bad, Nathan.
I thought that went really well. I thought that was much, but I thought it would be a right mess and us fumbling and figuring out what we were going to say next and stuff. But instead, that was quite good, I thought, for a first go.
Well, that's what it was. It just might have sounded more professional than it felt.
I think I'll be editing out a few ums and ahs when I do chunk out that little bit. So, yeah. Okay, so, as always...
Just couldn't control yourselves with Brian's name, right? Just had to be teenagers.
I was all good till the end. And then an obvious pun came.
But we don't re-highlight the puns by discussing them, ever. This is, you know the rules, right? You all know the rules. Pun comes, it might get a snicker, but it's not reiterated or highlighted because then it ruins the joke value of the pun.
It was made to be ruined. It was disgusting and vulgar.
So I would suggest you keep highlighting that disgusting vulgar pun over and over again, making it more highlighted to the audience, completely defeating your own purpose in highlighting it, Neil.
Shout out to Tim, King of Puns.
Okay.
Have we already finished?
Who would never make a pun like that?
Oh, God, this is going to never end. I'm glad we didn't
Have we
have this
already
happen in the
finished with
Cox bit.
Brian?
I suggest total dead air or all everybody speak at once. Let's go with the second. Everybody go.
Woohoo!
Are we
Free for
finished
all.
with
We can
Brian?
just do whatever we want now.
I had to step away for a minute. Are we already finished with Brian? Because I had one more point to make to him.
Oh, okay. Well, then I could throttle everybody who just did that. Mostly Neil. Go ahead.
I would like to go ahead and point out to him that measurement is what defines what exists in the physical and natural world. And given that all measurements are either taken with respect to a flat plane or from a flat plane, how do you sleep at night?
That was a much better ending. Well worthy of adding on to the end. And yes, to reiterate Adam's point, I think that was a much better ending than we had already, don't you? How do you sleep at night knowing that all of the measurements are either from a flat plane or with respect to a flat plane when you assert Earth's a sphere? It's disgusting.
You know why? How? He de-reams.
He de-reams. Shout out to Unitox Femu. He says, we are following Sun for 4.5 billion years with 448,000 miles per hour speed with the atmosphere through a vacuum, and still there is no edge of the universe. Thanks, Sasha. Really appreciate the super chat. Okay. We all took it out now. Shall I move on to the video or not? Yes, Nathan, we really want you to move the show along a little bit quicker in future. I agree. Right.
Whoever that was a good idea.
Right, I'm going to plow through regardless of whoever says what next. Okay. So, this videographer is called Creaky something. So, I'm going to stick his link in. Let's see what he's called. It just says Creaky. Okay. This guy's called Creaky.
Oh, no. You're not seeing this guy? Is that Welsh plum, isn't he?
Oh, okay. Yeah, he's vaguely familiar.
Yeah.
Vaguely familiar. In any event, his link's going by. Share of the YouTube love, as always. Let him know at Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me and responded to your video. I don't actually know what we're going to be responding to. I've not watched this, so I don't know what it's going to be. Might be good, might be bad. We will find out shortly. This only came out. Oh, no, it's like 19 hours old. Presumably that's why Divergent Droid stuck it in the chat, because it's brand spanking new. And yeah, we're going to respond to it. So hopefully, without any further delay, we will see. I'll speak slowly, waiting for an interruption to see who's going to stop me starting the video off on the good foot that you normally start on. No? Let's go.
Flat. I know, hold your applause. We've been onto this round earth idea for a few millennia now. Every experiment and I...
Well, two things to cover already, man. I couldn't even get to the pause button before it became a second point. Millennia, you say? We've known for millennia. No, it's been a few hundred years. Prior to that, we were travelling out to find new worlds in outer space beyond the horizon on a flat plane. How it's all mapped, how it's all charted. So no, definitely not. Secondly, all of the experiments, like cause and effect reasoning by way of systematic experimentation based on a hypothesis after observing naturally occurring phenomena, you have no such beast for a globe Earth. It's a category error. It's a concrete noun for a start. What's happening for you to cause an effect? Who is this guy? He's dumb as hell. How long's that? 11 seconds. 2 idiot statements within the first 11 seconds of his video. Wow. It's got to be a record.
I do mean every experiment.
Every experiment for a concrete noun will prove that what cause and effect for what? Are you idiotic? You think you can cause and effect a concrete noun? This guy is so stupid, he's going to reiterate his stupidity.
Those carried out by your flat earth friends ends up...
So nobody's carrying out experiments for flat earth either. So now he's juxtaposing his stupidity onto a flat earth by stereotype. My God, this is too much to keep up. We've only been into it for 17 seconds. I'm still almost getting interrupted immediately by my own panel. It's not like they can't hear my enthusiasm level going through the roof. It definitely requires Neil to interrupt. Go ahead.
It wasn't Neil, it was me, damn it. And this guy is horrendous. This is like one of the worst trolls.
Thank you. That's such
there.
wonderful colour commentary while I'm pointing out that he's actually defying the definition of science. I really need a colour commentary on how bloody useless he is when I'm commenting on what he actually says, Arwin. Thank you. You carry on.
You're welcome.
No colour commentary. I'm sick of dealing with the comments about it, Arwin. People bitching about you. I'm just going to be blunt from now on. People hate your colour commentary.
up being an accidental tribute to the globe. And then there's CC, the star of today's Point and Laugh project. He's like...
Right, so you're poisoning the well fallacy that you're going to be dealing with a clown shoes before you've even put him on screen. So this guy has done nothing but riddle his video with fallacies. We're only 25 seconds in. Oh, yeah, we should really apologise to Brian for the terrible Irish accents we just did. He's just arrived.
Mine wasn't terrible. Mine was quite good.
I did Northern Ireland again. It's the only one in my arsenal. It's all I got.
I can guarantee you they were all bad. I didn't hear them, but I just know.
Get it
Well,
from
less of your prejudice then.
Jimmy Carr, who's also Irish. What is it? Peace and civility. To get you into the old Northern Irish vibe. He's got a whole bunch of phrases to give you different accents from around the UK. You never seen that sketch? Jimmy Carr, check him out.
Ireland is not the UK.
I was saying that I was doing a Northern Ireland accent, though, wasn't I? So, strictly speaking, I was correct. Actually, is Northern Ireland?
No, you were not.
No, I'm still wrong. No, you are right. Northern Ireland isn't included in it's Great Britain and Northern Ireland, which is UK and Northern Ireland. No, I am wrong. You're bloody pedantic Irishman. You are right. Don't want any troubles. Let's move on.
Use the term British Isles.
Yeah,
That
British
winds
Isles.
them up.
Yeah,
British
that's,
Isles.
yeah, no, that because I can't argue with because that's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, British Isles. Then we can all cuddle up and wear jumpers together, right? Anyway, this guy's Welsh. We've got a perfect amount of disdain for the Welsh too.
Like the one band that only knows one song but keeps playing along.
Oh, this poison in the well fallacy is going on a little bit longer than I expected.
We've heard it, CC.
I see we need a comparison with your poison in the well fallacy. Wonderful, wonderful. Excellent use of fallacy.
Now, some of you say, Creaky, you're obsessed with Chris, and to that I say, maybe.
I didn't know who Chris was or you were until this point, but now I think based on the fact that you're telling your audience that you are obsessed with Chris, I don't even know who he is yet. Anybody else picking up on that vibe? If I started my video, people say I'm obsessed with Sharon. Who's Sharon? What are you bringing her up? Obviously, I appreciate he's probably going to be covering him in this video. Go ahead.
Did he not say Chris as in C-R-E-S-S as opposed to Chris?
I think that's a Welsh thing, though.
Be, but can you blame me? It's like reality TV without the budget.
In the Jimmy Carr sketch, he says if you want to try and be Welsh, he says it's not necessarily about a phrase. It's one of the only ones he doesn't do with a phrase. He says you've just got to say what you would say normally, but just sound stupid. And then he gives a couple of examples. Whose coat is this jacket? Whose shoes are these trainers? There you go. That's Jimmy Carr's way of getting you into the Welsh accent. Just sound a little bit stupid.
You keep sending me these CC classics asking for my take.
See? Whose shoes are these trainers?
What am I meant to do? Ignore him? That's like ignoring a kitten playing piano on the
Can I help? Yes, Brian.
Yes. At the start of this video, the reason I came in straight after was he said, we have known for millennia, millennia, right? To know is to measure. So that's a complete another rubbish. They've said this for 9 years. To know is measurement. To believe is calculation.
Yeah, do you remember when we covered that historian? And Adam, I think, was vaguely familiar with him and was outraged at the standard change. Because suddenly he's inferring that we've known since the Greeks, but then we've got people opposing the new introduction of heliocentrism, even though we've apparently, according to his own timeline, known for a long time that it is spherical, but yet the spherical new idea that isn't new because we've already known is being opposed by people who already know it's spherical but oppose the new spherical idea. It's like, no, your history makes no sense.
Yeah, how can you know without measuring?
Exactly.
Honest question.
Sorry,
how can you? No, you're right. It's okay, chocolate. No, I don't. We're
Yeah,
both
chocolate. How
settling
rude. Did you not hear the Irishman?
No, how can
Arwin
you know?
has left your show.
How can you know without measurement? How can you actually know? Honest question.
It's because it's clear that if I was swallowing a big gulp of cherry coke. It's because I've just told him off. I'm in a bad mood. I've had very little sleep. And I'm constantly I've told Arwin this, he knows. I've expressed my annoyance at constant barrages of people moaning about him. Neil, listen up. Whipping boy number 2, you're here now, aren't you? Get plenty of emails about you, plenty of messages about you too. So now Arwin's
That's
gone.
good. Keep them coming.
He was keeping you out the firing line, so I don't know why you've highlighted his dropping from the call after getting told off. Who do you think's next?
I guess everyone's attacking Arwin. I mean, other than a bit of ball wind that's out of line now and again, Arwin is a totally epic part of the show. Arwin is a genius. I don't know what the problem is with Arwin.
The problem with Arwin is he's having a hard time of it, and it's affecting him, and that is affecting how he behaves online in a negative way, and that means that he's being less and less likable. And as a friend, I want to resolve that. Now, I've tried to appeal to him in terms of, you've got this. I wanted to do this yesterday on the introspection show. You know, not just specifically for Arwin, but I wanted him to take part, and he didn't even take part. Maybe that's partially why I'm a bit annoyed at him. You know, because all of us are bearing our innermost, telling an audience, you know, how we've reflected on ourselves in terms of our bad behaviour. Arwin stayed silent the whole show. You know, I'm not saying he's better or worse than any of us, or he's less or more culpable for moaning at. You know, we all do bad things, but there's base level stuff, little gripes and irritations. In other words, with Arwin and Neil, as he's not here, right? The things that I gripe at Arwin or have just told him off for, let's be honest, and I'm sure you'll all agree as an audience, easy to rectify if you're Arwin. This isn't something that's going to take like loads of effort for him to change, is it? Yeah? But I have to deal with people moaning about it all the time. So it's one of those, you know, it's going to pour out, and trying to do it in a subtle way where he's enjoying the virtues of self-reflection. Well, he didn't get to enjoy any of those virtues yesterday, which is a pity. Maybe I'm just, like I say, maybe I'm just annoyed at that fact, because I want him, as a friend, because he is, Arwin's my mate, to join in on those things. I'm sure he'll rejoin. When Arwin gets told off, he'd rather not yell and destroy the show more, and he's got the respect to actually go away and go bastard off air. So good for you, Arwin. Thank you for dropping rather than raging at me. As I've just raged at you, that would typically be the response from Arwin, wouldn't it? So maybe he's turning over new leaf already. We'll see. Anyway, that's that address.
The thing about it is that, are you sure that the people who are emailing you are genuine, or are they just people who are pretending to be flat earthers or listeners to the show, who are just emailing you, telling you Arwin is no good, just to break up the situation?
Both.
Because anyone who's trying to derail the investigation needs to be investigated.
Both. And other avenues where people who I know closely will pass on messages. So I get contacted by all sorts. It's not exclusively Arwin, right? This now sounds to the audience like I only get a barrage of emails about Arwin. That's like the only subject matter in my inbox. It isn't. Far from it. One of many, many, many literally millions of emails that I've got. I'm just saying, it's one of those things that I do have to field on. It is a basically daily basis. I almost lied and said almost daily basis when I know damn well it isn't. Well, you know, that is something that's adding to my workload. And, you know, as much as Arwin's just carefree about these things, who cares? I could be how I like. Well, yeah, you can until it generates me more work. And I've got to appeal to people who, far from being strangers who want to muddy the waters and cause ripples in the water, as you're inferring. No, some of these people I know really well, like they're also friends. I don't know what you want me to say there, Brian. As much as Arwin is ace. Just one last point. In the same way as I've appealed to, I think it was Christians I used as the example yesterday. I'm like, these people care and are showing their love by contacting me to say that they don't like something, because it'd be far easier to just walk away. Well, this is the same exact thing. Now, don't take this as a violin moment where Nathan's expressing his love for Arwin. But in the same contrast, that's exactly what I'm doing by expressing concern. Now, when I see distress in Arwin in what he's doing on his shows, I want to express that concern for a friend. Now, that's going to be done privately. It's not going to be done on air. But what I can do on air is say, you're causing me more workload. And it's along the same lines, coincidentally, which is probably why I've got annoyed quickly with him. Anyway, we've laboured this far too long now. Anything else?
No, just what are the main problems they have?
Who's they? Contextualise your segue, please.
These people in general, because I should have a problem with Arwin because I'm literally on the panel dealing with him. So I'm the person who should have a problem. I should be the one articulating the problem, saying Arwin is doing X, Y, or Z. So what is it they're saying Arwin is doing? Because Arwin has been Arwin for the past... Arwin was on the show before me, so... I mean, how long has Arwin been Arwin on the show? We wouldn't have relative density equilibrium with him if it wasn't for Arwin. It was a major part of that.
Nobody's saying we want to get rid of Arwin. I'm trying to contrast that by saying, watched a Jordan Peterson video once, right, where he was explaining how to behave with your own kids. And saying that with other people's kids, when they do things that annoy you, you're not going to say anything. They're not your kids. You've not got to deal with them and live with them. And his attitude is, if your kids do something that annoy you, you should discipline them so they don't do that anymore, because there's a good chance it will annoy everybody. But you do that out of love for the kid. That is to say, you want them to do better in the world, therefore telling them where they're going to irritate the hell out of everybody is an expression of your love for the kid, even though in their mind they might cry because you're telling them off. Well, this is the same. I'm not, like I say, that's why I preface it by saying I'm not devoting my love to Arwin with violins in the background. But that is the essence of what I'm doing when I express my annoyance for something that is, by another standard that's not on this exact subject, also detrimental to Arwin. Now, your point, I also agree with. Just keep you on track, Brian. Right? He's being pushed to this by bullies and trolls. And when he, like, you would, let's keep it off Arwin, because he's not here to defend himself if it gets to that point, which it isn't yet. You were saying that Bev and the guy, Elder Bear, came in because they wanted sound bites, right? In other words, they want to poke the bear enough to get me to say something I'll regret by winding me up. Well, all of us have had to endure that for many, many, many years. And there are various periods, they come in flows, ebbs and flows, throughout your YouTube career in this example, right? That you'll be on a high or on a low. And normally when you're on a bit of a low, for whatever reason, be it emotionally or financially or in terms of your friendship or your relationships, whatever it may be, people who hate you pick up on it and try and exploit it. And sometimes they get the better of you, and they do get the, as I'm going to compare it to Arwin in this example, something like Rage Win, where he's yelling down the camera about something he's passionate about whilst being poked by some idiot in the chat or whatever. And, you know, we have to look out for our own when these things happen. We have to identify when these things happen. Because otherwise, someone like Arwin, I can't help but use him in this example. I'm just going to have to keep doing it. I'm sorry, Arwin. You just happen to have become this example now. It's just the way it is. You know, if it just makes it sound like I'm implying this is going to happen to him, and I'm not. But someone like that, if we don't address these things and don't identify them, they do go over the edge eventually. People burn out. And if you're not conscientious enough to recognize these things and point them out to the person involved, they don't get the benefit of that in the same way the child doesn't get a benefit when they're doing something irritating. They just don't know it. So in this case, I'm just expressing the annoyance of the audience. And in this instance, it did genuinely annoy me. And Brian's like, well, yeah, but Arwin's still ace. Nobody's denying that. Arwin's always going to be ace. He's my mate. He wouldn't be my mate if he wasn't ace. He is.
Well, I didn't mention Bev at all at any point.
No, I did. I did. I brought him up as an example because he's trying to. You were saying they tried to poke me.
About Bev, and I never said it. But
I did. Just to make the example again, because I did. You're now saying, well, I didn't say. Yeah, I did. I brought him up because in the same way, right, the trolls are poking Arwin to get a reaction out of him. And at a low point, when he's struggling financially, he and I compare notes on how broke we are, right? So they're using that. In this case, it's financial as opposed to emotional. But they're having a little poke over it. Even yesterday's show had someone saying, what was it? Oliver Win. You're like, pricks. So what? He's poor. Maybe give him a donation rather than poking him and calling him Oliver Win, you prick. But that's not what people do. But we around him can do that and offer support and say, oh, it's at least offer a bit of sympathy if you haven't got any cash to give him. Anyway.
There was a troll.
I'm trying to make a point for Brian. So when it comes to me bringing Bev into the example, it's because Bev has come to do that to me, to poke me, to get a few sound bites. Why? Well, because I'm being told there's a perception that I'm in a lull, but for some reason, I don't know why. Maybe it's because everybody's decided to attack me while I'm deciding to be proactive and forefront and confident. Oh, I can't have that. It's like crabs in a barrel, right? Anybody know the crabs in a barrel example?
Derail the investigation.
Yes.
Crabs in a bucket means that all the crabs will jab and yank and pull the other crabs as they try and climb out the bucket. So you don't have to worry about putting a lid on it. They'll all keep themselves in the bucket, stopping everyone else from getting out. Well, Bev is doing that. When he comes here, all right, you want to move forward on a positive foot. How did Elder Bear phrase it? Your sales pitch. Yeah, that's exactly what it is. It's a sales pitch. That's right. Yeah. We measure Earth flat.
I was just going to say, it gets to the point where they know he's impoverished and they freaking PayPal him 1 cent. Nah,
I get
that's a
that all the
smack in the
time.
face.
I laugh. I thank them. They get the same thank you from me as anybody else. I go back to them and thank them. Thank you very much for your support.
Yeah, but it was made to just drive him crazy.
Yeah,
And it
people are
did.
poking him, and we want to be his friends. But by the same token, if we don't address the bad things he's doing, they'll get worse.
Look, don't get me wrong. I'm not denying that Arwin's behaviour and some of the things he says are not worthy of a triggering. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is that what is the overall theme that you're getting from people? Because I'm hearing a lot of people are complaining about Arwin. Okay, what are their complaints? And I'm not hearing their complaints. I'm just hearing people are supposedly complaining. Give me a theme. What are they? What is the main complaint? Or the top three complaints, if you understand what I mean.
Derailing the conversation, colour commentary, and general interruptions. There you go. There's the top three.
But he's always done that.
Yeah. Well, we're trying to change our attitude so that we move forward with a positive attitude. So when I approached Arwin with this originally, my approach was to say, if we're going to move forward on the front foot, asserting, as is the case, that Earth is measured flat, then we can't have Baldwin's making an example for the audience that just shows how a baller behaves and essentially derails the conversation, so that we have to flex our muscles to show how we can put Baldwin back in check to get the conversation back on the front foot. I don't want to do that.
I would say there's a lot of people out there who have a hidden agenda with Arwin, who are using anything Arwin does on the show now, which is the same thing as he always did, that the same thing that always annoyed us, is suddenly a big deal. I wouldn't trust people who are pushing that too hard. Because to me, it sounds like, well, he's no different now than he was 4 years ago, so how come there wasn't all this big problem 4 years ago? It sounds to me like people have other issues with him and they're not coming forth with them. At least come forth with your problems, as opposed to making things up that complaining about stuff that he did 10 minutes ago that he was doing 4 years ago. Well, where were those complaints 4 years ago?
Okay, let me just quick shout out. Sorry to do a shout out in the middle of your bit. Kevlar says, you made Arwin go live. Come by OTL for a chat. Or OTL means, what does that mean? Online later or something? What's OTL?
On the level, it's Bevs, over the Bevs.
Oh, right, okay. Fine. Thank you for the super chat. Really appreciate the support. No, Brian, your sentiment is idealistic.
What would we be going to OTL for a chat? What's the point?
Anyway, your sentiment,
boy.
your sentiment is idealistic. I just said earlier, people only approach you to express the negative things. It's like complaints to a corporate, a gold, because they actually get to find out what they've done wrong. Because generally, people just vote with their feet. Oh, I don't like the way I was treated by that store clerk. I'm never going back to Tesco. So they just don't go back. That's not very helpful. The guy who really likes that Tesco store will go to the manager. That woman was really rude to me on the counter. Why? Because he wants to come back to the store. Now, that, when you boil it down that way, sounds like it's selfish motivations. Maybe you could point it like that. But generally, when you know there's no advantage. The reason I gave the example of the Christians was because when they approached me, there was nothing that they had to tell me about what I was doing wrong more than anything. There were pepperings of Arwin in that discussion, I'll be honest. And I'm not going to name and shame anybody specific. But there was nothing of advantage to them in what they were telling me. In other words, if you do this, I will benefit X. There wasn't any of it. So, there wasn't a single example I could give you and go, because of me changing my behaviour or addressing an issue on the show, it would benefit this person because they'd get to, and I'll give you an example they did give me, share it. So the advantage for me altering my behaviour in this example will also benefit me. That was the example I was given. So you think, well, how can this person be motivated to, I don't know, drive a wedge between me and Arwin, if that's the example that we're going to... Sorry, Arwin, you're just going to be used all this show. It's just the way it is. Well,
Well, the
no.
motivation is that Arwin says things that they may not like. Now, it doesn't matter if Arwin is right or wrong. The point is that these people, I don't care what they profess themselves to be, they will do things that is immoral just to remove a problem from their lives. I'm sorry, that's just the way it is. I'm not sorry about it. That's a turn of phrase. I'm not sorry. They will do that. I just find it very weird that Arwin is getting so much hard time now. Like, where was all this hard time 4 years ago? Arwin is exactly the same now as he was 4 years ago. What he has to say has not changed. So how come there's such a blowback now?
I don't know.
I just find it a bit strange.
When people ask questions like that, I have a tendency to take ownership on it. Maybe it's self-indulgent, but in any event, maybe it's because we're trying to take a different vibe moving into 2024, a more proactive, positive vibe. And therefore, that's going to bring things that might have been bubbling below the surface for several years to the surface because they're not conducive with that attitude. Now, I can say that's a reflection of my audience. I don't have any examples. I can only speak from the heart.
Well, I'm exactly the same as I was back in 2015. My attitude didn't change. I never changed my attitude. My knowledge on things increased, but my attitude never changed. And it won't.
Present, yeah, but that's the difference. To say we haven't changed, to say we don't regulate ourselves in here, isn't true. Some of us refuse to. Today was a good example. We're in the middle of trying a new thing with Coxie, and Arwin just wades in with something completely irrelevant that wasn't on topic, on point in how we were trying to do things. And then the second point, when it was just ad hoc, the Welsh guy, that's when Nathan's lost it. I can understand why Nathan, that's frustrating.
Yeah, that was a perfect example, actually. I've got to be honest. There you go, Brian.
No, that's why I just put it in context.
That would be something that would be in line with the criticism from people in the public. So I can't name the person that almost made exactly that comment, Adam, but there was one specific person who messaged me with a different example that was in line with what happened today, right? So in this case, we've got a very hyper-specific thing that we're trying to achieve. Cox is on screen. We're talking about Cox. We're making examples and directing him to Cox. And then an example comes in that is vague, wishy-washy, directed at they. I'm trying to tie him down to it. He says he's going to get it back on track. He didn't. And it's just a section in the middle of it that sticks out like a sore thumb as being not on the track that we're trying to take. Well, like I say, these are things that when I say addressing that or putting that to Arwin isn't exactly a big deal for him to think before he opens his mouth, am I actually on topic here? Or am I just inserting a bit of heliocentric knowledge that I've got that seems on topic, but it actually shattered the point? Well, those are direct criticisms from people who watch the show, not because they're wanting to drive a wedge or anything like that. They're just like, I want the information to be more concise. And that's a perfect example, wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, but I have to say something to you now you're not going to like. And it was bothering me since yesterday. You did the same thing yesterday. When the word aliens came up in that guy's video, you went straight into talking about where the whole term of aliens and all the rest of it came from, when it was not necessary.
Okay.
So it's exactly the same thing, Nathan. I'm sorry. We all do that too. We all do it.
No, there's a big difference, Brian.
I'll take that. Well, let's just acknowledge it first, Adam, then go ahead. Right. I'll take that on the chin because I did see it as a pretty loose segue, Brian. A segue that was almost justified. And I labelled it too long, it wasn't necessary, and it wasn't conducive with the point that was trying to be paralleled by that video. I will agree with you. But my justification, mitigation, whatever you want to call it, is to say that in my mind, I'm looking for every opportunity to put these flat earth arguments in. That's why I did it. So there's a greater good excuse rather than just me flexing my knowledge. Go ahead, Adam.
Yeah. Sorry, Adam, go ahead. Sorry.
I'm not having a go at Arwin for being Arwin. I'm never going to expect Arwin to change, but today was very frustrating lots of people have chatted. Working live, trying to achieve a particular aim, which is to make sure you're making positive statements whilst on the fly addressing. And literally, as we went live, it was Brian Cox. But you heard my response, and to put that effort in, to then just have something about bouncing stuff off the ionosphere to the moon and that. You just go, I didn't express it on air, but inside I went, it's just disappointing. Yeah. It's supposed to be in the same game. Now, Nathan makes the point. If you are doing your own show and you turn up, just maybe gather the room a little bit before interjecting with absolutely something that's had nothing to do with anything, because you hadn't just taken the time just to gather the room. You could have then, yeah? I think that's what we all do here. We don't all just run in and go, ha, I say, Les Neil, but he's only saying ha anyway, yeah? But you gather the room before making a point, just to make sure the point you're making is salient. And that's something I've learned whilst being here, how we function together. And that is something that's been put to Arwin privately, and he's choosing not to respond, is what I'm saying. So, whilst I don't agree with the technique, I agree with the sentiment. It was frustrating for me as well. And it's not the first time. And if it's being fed to Nathan, he does need to deal with it. And he did deal with it. It's not been responded to, from what I can see.
I've been the best defense lawyer I can be for Arwin at this stage. In the end of the day, Arwin does things that really annoys me. The whole claim of, the whole statement of someone needs to change is not correct. Someone needs to improve themselves, not to change themselves. Arwin, as fine as he is, yeah.
That's what I was saying, wasn't I? I wasn't.
Nathan. I don't mean it that way.
Just tweaking our behaviour because we've got the goal of putting a show on and respecting each other and trying to refine things. That's what I'm saying. Not change yourself. Nobody wants that. You don't want Arwin preaching like an evangelist. That would just be weird. Yeah. But you do want him to just moderate himself, so like we all do, so the show runs smooth.
I'll phrase it even better. We want the best of Arwin because he is ace. When things like that make you sigh, I almost went on camera. You know, you've got that expression, that what you were trying to describe verbally. I had that slapped all over my Chevy Chase, and I almost put the camera on while he was doing it, rather than interrupting him. But I thought, no, I won't do that to him. It's very disrespectful, because it was written all over my face, just like you described, Adam. But it's because I expect better from Arwin, right? When I compared Owen Benjamin and had that, I know you're smarter than this. I know you can. I know you don't. You don't come across as the type of guy to just parrot stuff. Yeah, when you can easily dissect Coriolis, something that is normally above most people who come here, like most people. Therefore, this seems lazy. I expect better. Well, if I can say that about Owen Benjamin, he's not my mate. Yeah, he might have some advantages to us if we can leverage his intellect and popularity in Flat Earth. That might be of advantage to us, right? But beyond that, I don't care. Who's Owen Benjamin to me? No offense, Owen. You're nobody to me. I don't know you, right? Arwin he's my mate. I expect better. And if you don't
your
get it,
mate's cursing you out, so I don't know how much of a mate he is. This is the point. He refuses. You tell me something, I'm going to take it on board because I want to be part of the show. So I'm not going to interrupt anymore unless I got
you just interrupted that last sentence.
Yeah, because you're saying he's your mate and he's cursing you out left and right. That looks good for the show? Come on.
No, that doesn't look good. That's something else people have contacted me about, but I didn't want to necessarily raise things that people have very much intentionally kept private. But there we go, Neil. That's one of those things. We're airing our dirty laundry on a live show currently. It's devolved into this, yes. Should we move back onto Creaky Binder before we divulge any more personal things about our friends?
Yeah.
I think when Brian Cox watches this live show, he will obviously feel like we're worthy of responding.
See why I didn't want to do Tyson on the first one?
Okay, so that's my fault. Only because I've heard a lot of pushback lately against Arwin.
I also blame Brian.
Pardon my voice.
Go ahead, Brian. Sorry, we were talking through each other. My bad.
No, I'm just saying part of that, or a big part of that is my fault because I've heard a lot of pushback against Arwin lately. And Arwin is no different now than he was 4 years ago. Maybe people are losing patience. I don't understand it. But besides that, it's like I don't want to take up the whole show with it.
That's not
so
true,
I
though. He is
apologize.
different. He's broke and he's stressed over it. I know why he's stressed. Because he's broke. He's poor. And when I say to him, yeah, I can look, because I know my stats. I know this is a really crap time of year, right after Christmas. Terrible. Yeah, I'm not going to cover my mortgage. I know I'm going into the reds. It's just the way it is. But I can see into the future to a certain degree with statistics, right? So it doesn't necessarily make me stressed, although in the moment I am like, crap, I'm in a lot of debt. Arwin's the same, but I know he doesn't read terms of service. I know he doesn't study his stats. I know he's got no idea what potentially might happen next month. So he's just in the moment going, oh my God, I'm so poor. And then he e-begs more. That creates a bad impression. And then people start taking the piss out of him. And then he gets into a psychological cycle that is stressful. So you say he's not changed. I know he's under stress at the moment. Now, in past times when I'm not massive amounts of debt, I mean, I've given him like £5 here and there, but I'm like, this is as much I can dip out my overdraft because I can't just give him like $20. Here's $20, go and get a coffee, or here's $10, go and get a coffee, because I've happened to not be in. I can't do that at the moment. So all I can offer is whatever kind of support you can say isn't financial, but that doesn't change the fact that we're now swinging the other way, and it's like, I'm sure poor me Arwin isn't what he wants to hear either, right? Yes, we're sympathetic, but there's only so far that will go when it becomes self-deprecating. And there is a point with that with Arwin. The stress will get to the point where he'll do more and more self-deprecating behaviours unless we address it as friends. So you can ignore it. You could just cast him to one side, which seems to be the attitude you were inferring, where you're like, well, Arwin's ace. Nobody's denying that. That isn't what this is. It's quite the opposite. It's just, in a way, expressing concern. And I know a lot of the personal motivation behind that. It's directly relating to how much he's e-begging at the moment, right?
Well, I would say that there's a lot of people that he's annoyed in the past 2 years that would emphasize more on a problem than they would have done 2 years ago. You know, he has made himself a lot of enemies. Now, some of them, I understand, they are deserved because he said the wrong things. He shouldn't have said them. I'm not trying to back him up there. But I'm just saying Arwin is still Arwin as he was 4 years ago. And there's a lot of people that have a problem with him now. They didn't have that same problem 4 years ago. I find that a bit strange. I find it a bit dishonest. Because if I had a problem with Arwin 4 years ago, I'd be telling about it 4 years ago, if you understand what I mean.
Well, you probably were if you listen back to the shows. Anyway, should we move on?
Yeah, move on, because, Brian, I'll talk to you later.
Internet, impossible! So buckle up because we're diving into another episode of CC's wacky world of not so flat Earth.
Is this the guy he's not obsessed with, but he's got a whole video series on him? It sounds like you're pretty obsessed with this guy.
Subscribe.
That was obviously the guy's back of his head that he's obsessed with.
Sorry, Chris, do you want us to come back when you're less busy, or should we just wait?
Making a cup of coffee.
You think coffee's real?
Is it just me, or are the response standards when you're dealing with a flatty as an anti-flatty pretty crap? The response that he decides to dive in on, an edited video, is responding to him, having a light-hearted, laid-back intro. That's your criticism so far. We're 1 minute and 16 into the video. We've had a whole bunch of fallacies from you, a whole load of baseless assertions that contradict your history narrative. But yet, when we actually get to your criticism of the flat earther, it's look, he's making a brew. Yeah, that was so worthy of commentary.
Not for nothing.
Chocolate.
Nothing against this guy's accent or anything, but this guy's cringe to listen
Didn't hear the
to.
first half of that. Try that once more, Chocolate. You were breaking up at the beginning.
I said, no offense to this guy's accent or anything, but he's like cringe to listen to. Like, does he speak like this all the time?
He's Welsh. So,
He
yes.
just sounds like a clown.
He's Welsh.
Like, and I don't
That's
mean
racist.
exactly, I mean what he's saying.
Look, I'm Welsh, so I'm allowed to take the mickey out of him. You're not, right? So don't. Only we can do that, chocolate.
No, wait. White with 2 sugars for me, though, but I don't like milk coffee whitener if you have it. Oh, thank you very much.
Am I going wrong? Is this what I've got to do in these videos? Critique Simon Dan for how boring he is, as opposed to address his arguments directly with the comments that he sends me proactively, like you and your reference frames are ruined, end quote. I mean, that's the standard here. Over on the anti-flat earth side, you're critiquing this guy for a minute and a half so far, and what we've got is the guys having a cup of tea and how you all have your brew.
I'll get into that in a minute.
Sorry, I thought we had stopped for a lunch break.
This video is more for Google. You see, I know what you're up to, Google. I know you're suppressing us from telling the truth.
But I found this video on YouTube, which
Yeah, that's an interesting point.
is a company owned by Google. So if
Yes, indeed it is.
they are suppressing you, they're not doing a very good job, are they?
Oh, really? So if I was to type in flat earth debate and I was found on page 500, given that I've got over 2,000 shows with that title, you wouldn't say that that's YouTube suppressing me? Given that they've had Congress meetings where they have very directly and publicly been told to suppress us, you're going to deny that fact because you can find him on Google? What? You don't find it difficult to find a man you're obsessed with? What a revelation.
I would like to point out he's confusing the definition of suppression and silenced.
Yeah, stupid.
Yes.
We're not being
Yeah, I've had this on my channel.
silenced. Yeah, they're not locking us up. Idiot.
Yeah, I've had this on my channel where a commentator came in and said, wow, if you weren't being suppressed, you'd have X amount of followers. And a load of trolls come in and said, if this person, Brian's Logic, was being suppressed, how come you can find him? How come we can find him? It's like, it's a complete denial of the fact that the suppression is happening. And this is what this guy is trying to do. Yet this guy would have a link to this other person's channel that's probably sent to him via someone else that just happens to be close enough to that person to get the link. It wouldn't be something you could just straight up find easily.
Right, I'm just going to
YouTube.
debunk this straight away. Can one of my mods please go to a channel called Mr. Cheswick and dig out a video that says how to help your YouTube flat earth searches? Now, I'm going to preface, in case I don't actually get a link to the video, and just tell you to go and have a look at it yourself if we don't get there. But Mr. Cheswick basically said, wow, check out what I get when I search very specifically for shows that I want to do with the subject that I'm very interested in. I cover it. That would be flat earth. Here's what I get. And he shows you CNBC, NBC, BBC. He shows you all of the mainstream that comes up first, telling everybody we're idiots, followed by Simon Dan, Professor Dave Explains. Mr. Cheswick's not going to be found for 500 more pages if he's lucky. Now, after putting in a whole bunch of filters to get rid of all of that, he still struggles to find me. Bearing in mind, he's looking for me in his example. Now, he's done a more recent version where, I don't know, I haven't actually watched it, but I know by the title what he's doing in the video. It's an extension of the first one I talked about, where I'm in the chat. So he does a little look for me to make my example. And what do you know? He can't find me. And he's typing in search titles that are so specific to this show. And there's thousands of them. But yeah, this numpty, Creaky, whatever he's called, thinks that, what, because you can find a man that yourself self-declared to be obsessed with, and you've got a video series on, that makes your point, does it? Are these people deranged?
Yes, they are, because that's what they must say and must do to deny that we are being suppressed, that we are being not promoted. That is true. That's what they must say.
All right, so that 23-year-old kid that's behind the computer watching my video right now.
Just to pause a second. Why is this a point of contention? We've had in front of Congress a statement of what they're going to do, how it will be put down the list. This is not anything debatable. We've got the CEOs stating exactly unfavorable content and then specifically citing us as an example of that, Flat Earth, and what will be happen to it. I don't see why that is in any way a point of contention, like I said.
It isn't. But by that standard, because he, Creaky, very specifically replaces us in those searches, he can say, nah, it's because people like watching me. No, mate. No. It's because you get offered up after CNBC, ABC, BBC. Then you come along. You and Dave. Yeah? That's what people get offered first. Anti-Flat Earth. After Congress were told YouTube to suppress us. I mean, like I say. But what you think that makes you popular? It means every single person that is interested in our subject, that's Flat Earth, because you're anti-Flat Earth, they get directed to you. Lucky old you. That's why this crap where you're covering someone having a cup of tea has probably got thousands of views. I mean, so far it is boring. 21,000 views for your boring video in less than 24 hours, Creaky. Yeah, that's because every search is being directed your way. That's why. Yeah. So when you babble on about how he's boring because he's talking about making a cup of tea in his intro for the first 2 minutes of your video, you can still garner 21,000 views with that. Now, I know, generally speaking, that people want to be thoroughly engaged within the first couple of minutes of a video to continue watching it. This is boring. So you're moaning about him being boring, but you're commenting on him being boring. Now, strictly, you could say, but you're commenting on him being boring, therefore it's boring. No, it isn't. You can tell by my tone that this ain't boring. Because my exasperation is wanting the subject matter, that's Flat Earth, and how Earth is measured flat, to be at the forefront of all these videos. But what you're being dished up if you're a member of the public interested in this subject? Well, you. That's what you're being offered. Not me. Not this guy you're obsessed with, whatever his name is.
Now, I'm not a
YouTube. Is that a rhetorical question?
It wasn't a question at all, was it?
Yeah, you said, are these people deranged? Was that rhetorical?
Oh, that question. I'm going to go with that was rhetorical. He seems pretty deranged.
No, that's not rhetorical. Go ahead and put him up on screen and then ask that question again.
Is he deranged?
Yeah, there you go. It looks like somebody took a shotgun and blew out his earlobes. What the hell is going on here?
He has stretched his earlobes and put hoops in them.
Yeah, and you're asking if they're deranged. No, that's perfectly normal.
Traditional Welsh thing, that. Then hang spoons in them.
Expert by any stretch of the imagination, but I have been doing this long enough to know that that isn't the best way to get people to subscribe to your channel, CC. But I'm always
far better if you're recommended to everybody looking for Flat Earth. Then you'll definitely pick up subscribers.
Open to trying new things.
Go on.
I've put a link into Master B from just CBS from 2018, CBS News from 2018, with Susan Wojcicki, who was the CEO of YouTube at the time, talking about YouTube cracking down on Flat Earth and other what she called conspiracy theories.
All of this stuff is kind of irrelevant. Argument ad populum doesn't prove crap.
I'm scanning my way through it. I thought you were carrying on talking. Okay, yes, but this basically debunks his entire premise. But there we go. I mean, it is argument ad populum, right? Who cares? We're just talking about who's more popular in subscriber base. That's his argument so far. What are we, 3 minutes into the video? This can start playing now when I don't want it to.
You mentioned it earlier with your frustration. I want to get into your argument. They don't, do they? And the last thing they want to get into is an actual real topic on this because they'll lose. So what do we do? Talk about how a man can make a cup of coffee or, you know what I mean? Some random that's all they can do, is to try and add ridicule and, as you say there, add popular fallacy. So it's about all they've got in it. That's why they're not here.
Perfect. Thank you for these citations, Brian. Shouldn't be reading them while I'm doing a live stream, really. But yeah, perfect. Makes our point. Right, where's this video gone? There it is.
So this is a personal message from me straight to you watching this now, especially if you're 23. You. Have you subscribed yet? Oh, where are you going now? All right, you're back.
So we're well into 2.5 minutes of video. Earth is measured flat. So if you're watching this and wondering, where's the argument? Where's the points? Where's the globe proof? Where's the flat earth proof? Where's the flat earth debunking? Where's the globe debunking? Yeah, you haven't had any of that. You've had him criticising the way he makes a cup of tea, asking you to subscribe, and that's pretty much it so far. Earth's measured flat. It's mapped flat, navigated flat, built on flat, referenced flat, flown on flat. Everything about how the Earth functions is flat. There you go. Stick that in your pipe.
Problem is that I have a problem with NASA, and yes, I might sometimes go on to the NASA live feed and troll the channel.
Hang on a second, so are you in Encore? We've heard it, CC. Now, some of you to tell us that...
Okay, so, I don't know who this flat earth guy is, but he's got a problem with NASA. Now, I'm very skeptical that he'll launch into how the sky is not a vacuum, but maybe he'll surprise us.
I might sometimes go on to the NASA live feed and troll the channel.
Oh, that was actually in his background. Well, you know, one thing I will give you, Creaky, is that you're not like this guy making a video with the most horrendous of background noise. At least you've got yourself sorted in a place that hasn't got a whole bunch of noise in the background.
Hang on a second, so are you honestly trying to tell us that you think YouTube or Google is trying to suppress your videos and your comment section?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think he goes, I think you missed was because you stopped the video just after he said it. Was when the guy said, "I'm just making coffee," he said, "Oh, you believe in coffee?" It was a little attack on flat earthers, as if you don't believe anything is real. You know, it's kind of a stupid attitude. Like, we don't believe coffee is real. Coffee is a conspiracy theory. You know, this kind of a thing. And that's where his whole video started with, was that exact comment. That thing right there.
That's the best way to attack us, right? Because what they got is a belief system. So why not attack on belief and put that into the minds of his audience, right? Like they've told us already, it's a lack of trust. It's not about arguments, not about evidence. Lack of trust.
Yeah, you don't believe the coffee you're drinking is real chocolate. You only know it is.
Yeah, well, moving into 2024, we don't have that attitude anymore. None of us here believe Earth is flat to have a fair comparison with us believing in coffee, because we believe in flat. We don't. Earth's measured flat, easily demonstrable, and it's our opener. Bearing in mind we're almost 3 minutes into your video. Don't seem to be having much globe proof, just criticism of a man you're obsessed with. It's pretty sad.
Because you troll another channel, namely NASA. Tell me you think you're really important without...
Where'd you get he trolls NASA from? He's not trolling NASA. He said he occasionally tunes into NASA. It sounds like he's a subscriber or a fan. Now, when it comes to NASA, for us, we've turned our backs on them. We know they're liars because they're lying about being in an area that doesn't exist, that you think is called outer space, a sky vacuum. Entropic law debunks the sky vacuum. There is no outer space. Therefore, we, personally, not this guy, have no necessity to go back to NASA's feeds to see if they're fake. We know they're fake. They haven't got cameras in a sky vacuum. They haven't got moon buggies on rocks in the sky. The sky is not a vacuum. Outer space is fake, and all NASA astronauts that have ever existed and said they've been in a sky vacuum are liars. That's the end of that argument.
Out saying you think you're really important.
I have enough trolls myself,
Is that his
you
coffee
don't,
machine?
Chris.
but I have to troll that channel because I know it's all bullshit.
Yeah.
Take it back.
NASA bullshit. We get it. You dislike NASA. But can you please me? How big is your coffee cup, Chris? I went along with it at first because I thought I could make some stupid jokes.
So, almost onto a coherent point for about 1/10 of a second there. So he doesn't like NASA. Hey, I mean, it sounds like you've picked the most low-hanging fruit to get obsessed with, but that's just me. I mean, maybe address the fact that you can't have a sky vacuum. It violates the second law of thermodynamics. What's that? How big's your coffee cup? Who cares? Your whole religion is based on the area called the sky being a vacuum, and it can't be. We'd all be dead.
Anybody
about
else
it, but
kinda
now
find it funny? Anybody else kind of find it funny when people want to defend NASA wholeheartedly, when they as well say they treat the Earth as a flat stationary thing? Isn't that cute?
In the vein of going forward on the front foot, if we were to bring up NASA going forward, as Chocolate has just done, we'd point out that NASA use a flat Earth. When describing aviation, they're describing travelling across a flat, non-rotating, flat, stationary plane. That's how NASA are going to describe it. Go on, Brian. Tell me I didn't quote it verbatim. Go on.
Yeah. Go ahead, Brian.
Yeah.
Tell him he didn't memorize it correctly again.
Yeah, it's flat stationary, non-rotating plane.
I don't think that's it either.
No,
by
that's
the way.
not it either. It's a stationary, non-rotating flat Earth.
But how could something be
Flat,
stationary? And why do you have to
Excuse
say
me, we were about
non-rotating?
to gloat
Because
at Brian.
It's not.
Do you mind? That wasn't correct
But it's
either,
a valid
Brian.
question. It's a valid question, and I answered this already. The reason they're saying it's stationary, as in it's what they mean is it's not going up or going down. It's not rotating. It's not going up and it's not going down, and it's flat. And it's a flat plane. That's
Yeah,
what
they say
they mean.
flat
I'm going to go
Earth.
get the citation and post it in Master B again, for God's sake. Chocolate, you got it. You do it.
Sure. But Brian is correct in terms of how they make it absolutely explicitly clear. They say stationary. That is to say not moving up, down, left, right, or forward or backward. Non-rotating. That is to say it's not spinning. And flat Earth. Those are the very specific words that they use. So they're clarifying. In case you say non-rotating, that's because Earth's rising up. No. Stationary, non-rotating, flat Earth is how they describe it.
Yeah. It almost sounds redundant, Neil, but it's not.
Yeah, because I'm thinking stationary means stationary, not moving. I got it, though.
There's two aspects here, transmitting and spinning. So we can move on.
We can move on. But I will stick it up once it comes from Chocolate.
It's getting out of hand.
All the clouds are standing still. That live feed doesn't make any sense at all to me.
Well, why didn't you just start with that? I mean, if it doesn't make sense to a flat earther, then it's obviously fake.
All right. Well, if it doesn't make sense to the globe model, it obviously isn't a globe by that rhetoric. When we've put the fact that you can't have gas pressure without a container to compadres of the anti-flat earth fraternity, like yourself, in this case Rumpus, he would tell us that the second law of thermodynamics, that is gas law and how it disperses into space when described in the physical and natural world that we observe, it doesn't apply to Earth. Meaning it doesn't apply to a globe Earth in a vacuum because that's simply a model derived from flat Earth measurements that you have reified into existence. I mean, maybe you should have opened with that, addressing the fact that you can't have gas pressure without a container. That would have been a far better opener than talking about how this guy's opener to a video that you're definitely not obsessed with. Why would you be when you've got a series of videos on him? But you can find him really easily, so he's definitely not suppressed. I mean, they're pretty contradictory points that he's made thus far.
But the problem I have is that I can't leave comments on.
I know why he's obsessed with him, because the guy's got very little to actually offer. Whoever this guy is on screen now, he's a flat earther, and the guy's gone, wow, this guy's really low-hanging fruit. He's basically got sod all to say, so I can use him as a poster child of flat earth and say, look, this guy's a flat earther, therefore flat earth is stupid. That's basically this, isn't it? That's all he's doing.
Yeah, character assassination.
Yeah, but he's picked the right character. You know, in this instance, it's selective, isn't it? You know, he's picked his target and gone, if I'm going to character assassinate Flat Earth by stereotyping fallacy, I need to pick a numpty. And if I can find a numpty that has horrible audio, terrible background noise, talks in boring terms about things that he doesn't qualify, I've been watching a lot of NASA feeds. I don't like NASA. I troll them. That's the rhetoric of this video thus far, other than him making a cup of coffee. Well, that's low-hanging fruit, isn't it? Check out, this is what Flat Earth... he represents Flat Earthers, does he? This guy here? Is he representative of a Flat Earther? Well, according to this guy's stereotype, yes.
Well, when the guy said the clouds are stationary, this guy Creaky didn't disagree with that. Whereas in reality, clouds are anything but stationary. They may not be appearing to move very fast depending on the weather, but it doesn't matter. The clouds themselves are constantly in flux. So they're not stationary. They're the opposite from stationary. They're constantly moving. Do you know what I mean? So this is what we're dealing with. It's like the statement, the clouds are stationary, is completely wrong from the outset. But your man Creaky wants to just agree with that, so he has something to attack this guy on. Whether he knows that's correct or not, he's not interested in what's correct or thinking logically. He's interested in trying to character assassinate some guy who has probably absolutely no idea who he is. This Creaky guy, like, he doesn't know who he is.
My videos to people.
Well, there's a couple of potential fixes, Christopher. First of all, have you checked that your keyboard's plugged in? Because, you know, Flat Earther. And secondly, you haven't accidentally changed your channel category to suitable for children. Because if you have...
So
Why do Flat Earthers unplug their keyboard?
just straight up stereotyping ad hominem.
Then you can't comment. But I find it really peculiar that you think Google is out to get you. Now, they could stop you uploading all...
But I don't mind sticking it up every time on screen to make you look like a complete bonehead. That's no worries. Every time you say, what, Google are censoring you? Yeah, it went to the highest echelons and they were told to. That's absolutely correct. Yeah. I don't
And
really
there was a whole list
his
of
objection.
links I could have got.
One more time.
Link after link after link I could have got that would support that claim. I just picked the first two.
Before you carry, found the NASA quote here.
Yeah, I'm just putting it up. I've got it. So I can't read it. It's too blurry. Can someone read it?
This report derives and defines a set of linearized system matrices for a rigid aircraft of constant mass flying in a stationary atmosphere over a flat, non-rotating Earth.
We were both wrong. Everybody was wrong. Flat, non-rotating Earth. So it doesn't say stationary.
Stationary atmosphere. So the atmosphere is the same reference frame as the Earth. Well, that's the point he's making. There's not two. Yeah, in a stationary atmosphere over a flat, non-rotating Earth.
Hey, Simon Dan, what do you know? You were right. Reference frames ruined. No Coriolis. No proof of Earth turn. Earth stationary. Non-rotating. Flat. Yeah, we already know.
Yeah, but there was other citations from NASA that stated slightly different, and there were citations from Lockheed Martin and from Boeing and Grumman. What's the one Grumman? There's all the aerospace companies. There were citations from all of them, and they all say the same thing. The main basis of it is flat and stationary. That's the basis of all their citations.
Done that, they've just removed your ability to comment on your own videos. Okay.
That I would like to speak to. I could just give them hearts and checks. That's all I can do. When I tried to press the comment button, all of a sudden things get obscure. goes into cat lock, and I'm typing, and there's nothing happening.
And finally, the coffee machine has shut up. Now, we haven't got to listen to you slurping 3 liters of coffee for the rest of the video.
You see how long it took me to make that cup of coffee?
Well, we couldn't.
My God. Does this have any substance in it?
Miss it, could
I'd
we?
say not.
Oh. Glad this is late in the show.
Coffee's got a lot to answer for.
Now, what I want you to do is I want you to think about during this period of time. I like milk in my coffee with sugar.
Oh, this is so painful.
Nathan, this is terrible. This is a heap of nothing, and it'll never amount to anything. This is the best that our opposition have got.
This is what they get, but this
That's
will
the first
generate...
time we've done this, guy.
Just for the audience benefit, this generated 21,000 views in the last 24 hours because there's an absolute shed ton of people searching for flat Earth, and they'll be presented with stuff like this. So that's how it garners all of the views. But what is it? In essence, it's total garbage. It is boring. This is a boring video from you and him. Like I say, this inadvertently means that we're now making a boring video.
I'll send you a series of videos from the guy we covered yesterday, covering different topics. If you want to switch a video, one of them would do a lot better than this.
Yeah.
I'm not saying you should.
It's such a stark contrast. Yesterday we were dealing with a lawyer called Deception Detective, and he's covering the Madeleine McCann case and showing how mid-level deceivers will utilize certain mid-level fallacies when they're being challenged. They'll try and shut down their opponents with ad hominem fallacies, poisoning the well fallacies, things of that nature. So that's a sort of, in his estimation, mid-level deception. Now, when discussing mid-level deception according to Deception Detective, when analysing the behaviour of a couple of characters who have had their controversy of a missing daughter in the press for the last 15 years, I, personally, would consider that fairly highbrow as a discussion topic for us to be having here on Flat Earth Debate. Compare and contrast to this utter tripe.
How long it took you to figure out that the Earth is flat?
Probably nowhere near as long as it's taking you to make a cup of bloody coffee.
This reminds me of Simon Dan's very first video, which basically went viral, where he analysed a flat earther opening and closing a gate. Now, the video itself from Dan and the video he was criticising from his flat earth stereotype, contrasted with this guy right now, was boring, but it went viral. It was boring, it had no content, no substance. Both of the characters involved are dull as dishwater, but it went viral. And here we are, exactly the same utter tripe, getting tens of thousands of views within the first day.
Took you a while, didn't it?
Hold on. Question is, why isn't he reviewing 1 hour videos?
He doesn't
How
want to,
about that?
because this tripe will still get him 20,000 views. Why put effort in? He can criticise a flat earther for making a brew too long in his video and get 21,000 views, Neil. Does he need intellect? Does he need substance? Does he need good arguments? No. He needs to go, look, flat earthers are stupid. That's his shtick. That's what he has got. Look, a stupid flat earther.
You call this before the low-hanging fruit?
Yep.
I would contest that and say for these guys, this is the high bar.
Yeah.
This is the high bar of truth for these guys. This is where they need to go. Because again, it's not about evidence and arguments. It's about trust.
Why would
Yeah, but
this...
to me,
why,
This guy
to speculate,
look like a complete moron, nobody will trust him.
why would this get propped to the top of the list?
Disingenuous.
Why would this be at the top of the list? I'll tell you why. Because if you're having a cursory glance at flat Earth and you come across this, what does this represent if this is the subject of flat Earth? A great big fat nothing burger with a guy talking about something very boring and being criticised by a guy who's also very boring. Does this encourage you to research the nature of Earth further? No, not at all. Perfect. Give him this first. So this guy's managed to corner the market in making it all very dull and boring. And that's precisely the impression that YouTube want to give off about this subject. So he's going to be top of the list. In his deluded mind, he thinks it's because he's good at what he does. And this guy, who is equally boring and basically his parallel in the flat Earth, yeah, just as boring, just as dull, just has slightly worse sound, yeah, he, to him, is, oh, I'm just censored because I'm not boring, because YouTube is censoring me. But that's also true. We can easily demonstrate that as fact. But it doesn't change the fact that both boring characters should get equally comparable views for how crap they both are. But one's going to get 20,000 views. This guy's going to get 5, isn't he?
Yeah, because it's a situation where you either trust the heliocentric paradigm or you get character assassinated. That's about the size of it. They are the two choices you're given. You either trust and join the side that this Creaky guy is on, or someone like him will do their best to character assassinate you, even if you're just a nobody on YouTube. Because in the flat earth arena, if you thought, like, who is this guy he's critiquing? I don't know the guy. I don't even recognize his voice. Doesn't mean he's a nobody in reality. It just means that, you know, he's nobody, you know, on YouTube. Yet they feel the need to character assassinate him. What has he done to garner this attention? This flat earther, what has he actually done?
Produce crappy YouTube videos.
He said it's not at low.
Yeah,
That's what he's done.
So he's not even picking a really heavyweight flat earther because he can't.
No, because he doesn't need to. He doesn't need to, and that's not what's required of him, or what is. The beast does what the beast is successful at. So if he is successful producing this, he will continue to do that which he has garnered success with. Is he going to say, I need to offer something of substance? No. What's made him popular is making Flat Earth look boring. So that's what he will continue to do. He's not going to go, well, it's like Neil deGrasse Tyson. Oh, I'm going to jeopardize everything that I stand for by going in front of a flat earth that potentially could rip me a new asshole. Rather than having that be lingering out in the open without saying it, I'll say it. Oh, well, they'll just be more charismatic. Done. Jobs are good and moving on. He'll never want to ever be in front of us again. He just captivates his audience with his ball nonsense measured off a flat plane that he doesn't disclaim. This guy, he's going to do the same. Why would he want to get entangled with us? He knows we're going to rip him a new one. I know that feeling too. I've been around a hell of a lot longer than this guy, right? I remember being green in this subject. Like this guy is, we know he's green at heliocentrism. He's not covering advanced heliocentrism. He doesn't understand advanced heliocentrism, let alone the flat earth counterparts argument. He knows how to criticise someone's brew-making abilities. That's this guy's intellect. Well done, Creaky. You're good at criticising the abilities of making a brew on camera. But that garnished him a lot of views. So is he going to change? No, he doesn't need to. No, why would he? But in his mind, it's because that's good and smart and people know it about him. That's what he's justified. And the other guy, just as boring, who I'm obsessed with, isn't getting the views because he's wrong. Very nice black and white terms to present up on YouTube when you search Flat Earth to the numpty cursory glance that somebody's come along to find. This is what they get. Perfect. He's going to continue doing this till the day he dies if he keeps making him money.
It sure did.
Chris, we're both a bit too long in the tooth to be playing peekaboo.
However, during this period of time, you think you can sit down with somebody over a cup of coffee and teach them that the earth is flat.
There isn't.
Yeah, I can. I would sit them down and say that's exactly how it's measured, built on, navigated, charted, flown upon. That's how it is. What's that? You say it's a globe? Well, give me your example, and I'll tell you how your example utilised a flat earth to make it. That's what I'd do over a cup of coffee, and I absolutely assure you I'd win.
enough coffee in the world to be able to convince anybody that the Earth is flat. So you may need to
show them some measurements of it flat, and then they wouldn't have any doubt in their mind that it was measured flat, because it is flat. You can't measure something flat unless it is. And that's precisely how Earth is measured. So while in your mind, simply saying with a hand wave dismissal, nobody's going to believe Earth's flat, yeah, that's going to satisfy the YouTube algorithm nicely. That's what it'll achieve. And if that's all you want out of life, then fair enough. With my YouTube hat on, I envy you. But when I take that hat off, that is definitely not a high standard now, is it? You've got to be stupid to believe this flat Earth. Well, maybe if you looked into how it was measured to claim it's a globe, you'd realise that your globe needs a flat Earth to be measured.
set your sights a little bit lower.
Quick question. I know there's not enough in the world, but how much coffee would it take to prove a flat Earth?
Yeah, that's how he's quantified it, right?
Yeah.
So you're saying there's a chance if we ply you with coffee for the next 10 days. It's like, what kind of... Is that your gauge? How much coffee?
It's impossible. Can't do it.
Well, you haven't got to. It was just a suggestion.
Not over a cup of coffee. Not at all. No. In fact, the only way you're going to be able to figure out that the Earth is flat is to do your research. No one's going to...
No, it's measured that way. So you could take the old 2023 and prior rhetoric of you need to have an open mind. You need to do your research. Nah, you just need to know it's measured flat. Because it is. That's how it's measured. Pretty simple. You need to take that attitude, my friend, whoever you are. Chris, is it? Did he say his name was Chris? Yes, Nathan, his name's Chris.
I think he did.
Okay.
You're faster than this. Don't think you are. No, you are.
Yeah. But that is a fact. It is measured flat. So when it comes to convincing people, you just need to tell them that. Now, I know that many of us in this arena haven't been exposed to this new amazing way of thinking. What's that you say? I should just tell them it's measured flat. Because it is. Yeah, it's a major revelation, I know. But yeah, that's exactly how it's measured. So just tell them.
Tell you.
You are joking, right?
No, I'm not joking. Earth is measured flat. Every globe assertion that you can ever infer for your reification that you're standing on a sphere flying through a violation of the second law of thermodynamics in the form of a sphere Earth requires Earth to be measured flat. And it is.
I mean, if there was nobody telling anybody that the Earth was flat, then...
It would still be flat. It wouldn't make any difference who's telling anybody anything. That's how it's measured by us, so we can see that it's flat and prove to numpties like you that it's flat. Because that's exactly how it's measured.
Why am I here making a video about a guy in New York making a cup of coffee?
That's a very good question. Given that Earth's measured flat, you'd think you'd be going about taking that flat Earth measurement and inferring that your reification of a sphere is true. That's typically what's happened in the past. But you're not even doing that because this has made you successful. Basically saying absolutely nothing and smiling and just calling your opponent stupid.
And this is just one of the many reasons why I dislike being asked what I do for a living.
You gotta go down there.
You do this for a living. You gleam all the flat Earth views for money. In fact, you don't even need to do that. You wait for this guy to make an actual video, then you critique his video to make your money from his work.
Big one.
All right, no need to show off. And Chris, come here. You and I both know that when you get to our age, it's not as big as it used to be, especially in the cold.
Big screen, big deal.
What the hell? So, let me get it straight. You're now talking about your penis with a guy you opened with as describing as not being obsessed with, and what you're critiquing about a guy you say you're not obsessed with is him making a brew, while you compare that to penises. This is slightly disturbing now, I've got to be honest, whoever presented this divergent droid. Sharpie, take a breath.
As a flat earther, as long as I've been doing this. I had no idea. I used to look as mountains, as plate tectonics.
That's me. Yo, what?
Yeah, this is more of an ASMR, because most of what the flat earther guy has come out with it sounds slurping or some brewing or something. This is more of an ASMR video, isn't it? That he's critiquing. Because I haven't heard
ASMR?
anything.
So, no, I mean, I can think of nothing worse. All I do is obsess about little electronic devices making little whirring fan noises and try and eliminate them from my recording. So, for me, listening to his extractor fan, the guy in the background gardening, his coffee machine, the echo, and then somewhere in amidst that, there's a vague point that has no value. To me, this is hell. I gotta be honest, it's audio hell.
I know it is. I know from your position, listening to all this absolute rubbish is hell. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the only redeeming feature, is that 50% of the video's got Creaky in it and he hasn't got horrendous audio.
But now I know they're trees.
They're what now?
But now I know they're trees.
Yeah, I thought that's what you said. Okay, why are they trees?
Did I miss a...
into no trees.
Did I miss a
Mountains
segue?
are trees.
It was because I was so focused on the coffee noise and the background audio and the echo. Where did we go from I hate NASA, I'm a troll, to they are... What are trees? What's he talking about?
There are no
The
trees
mountain.
on flat Earth. He's talking now. Mountains are trees, he said, basically.
Oh,
We're now going to get to something that Creaky will probably be prepared to discuss, because it's an easy point of attack, isn't it?
Like I said, not the low hanging fruit. This is the high bar for clowns like this.
So when I say we feel that we get a bad rap, this is the reason why. If he's about to launch into there are no forests on a flat Earth, oh God,
He already has.
Well, the sky isn't blue because of the sun being projected onto the atmosphere.
Yeah.
oh God, save us all.
It is. Sunlight is made up of different colours, and when it hits the atmosphere, the
Atmo, what now? Both are claiming that there's an atmosphere. Atmo means air. Gases. Sphere, that's a shape. You can't have sphere-shaped gases. Gases are, number one, unbonded. Yeah, they're individual particles that are not actually in connection with any others to form a shape. And what shape, if you were to ascribe one, would you describe them as? Well, it's completely dependent on the containment that they are within. So they take the shape of the container. That's entirely dependent on the container's shape, though, because gases don't have any inherent shape. So to say light hits a sphere-shaped air, because what? You've got the light from the sun traversing a vacuum and then hitting uncontained gas in a sphere shape? Wow, this is really crude. No, definitely not. It's an oxymoron to say atmosphere. But there we go. You've got a nice low-hanging fruit flat earther that said it for you, right?
shorter blue wavelengths are scattered in all directions by the gases and particles in the air.
You don't know that. You've based that on a heliocentric rhetoric with a 93 million mile sun, as I just described. As soon as you take away your distances to your sun, as soon as you take away your orbital motions, you have no sky vacuum, you have no excuse for why the sky is blue, and you certainly have any distances and orbits for a sun in a massive distance to describe scattering.
And this scattering causes the sky to look blue to us when...
Wow, you're a really good parrot. Well done for actually reasonably accurately parroting your heliocentric rhetoric in this regard. Unfortunately, your orbital motion that gives you a description of a sun 93 million miles away is a derivation of a flat Earth measurement to give you a system to put in orbit. So you've got a derivation of a flat Earth measurement. Well, that doesn't prove right.
Oh dear.
Go on. Was that oh dear?
Yeah, it's oh dear. So just because he thinks... Hold on.
Scattering. Thanks, Neil. Neil Cosentino.
Get pulled over, sorry.
And we look up at it.
It's blue because it's sky ice.
Oh, God. I hate doing these sorts of videos because I basically object to everything both parties say. And one of them's supposed to be a flat earther. Oh.
Hi, Ice. What's in that coffee?
Sometimes some of these people are not flat earthers. They just pretend to be and make videos as if they are. But sometimes they actually are. Sorry.
Sometimes they're just new agers that also think the Earth's flat. And wouldn't, if you ask them, describe themselves as a flat earther, that's just an obvious truth that is inconsequential in their worldview, frankly.
Yeah, they're more
There's a lot
obsessed.
Sometimes people are just retards and they want to have their voice heard. Sometimes that happens. On this occasion, we got two retards.
Sometimes some poor old bloke who's just having a ramble, who doesn't give a shit about any views or anything, production standards, because he just likes doing 5-10 minute videos, having a ramble while he's having a cup of coffee in the morning, gets picked up and held up as the voice of flat earth for anti-flat earthers to ridicule.
Perfect. With that, I'm going to say, if you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Premiering streams, then stay tuned as there will be an after show to follow. Fortunately, though, if you are watching this live, this is where we bid you farewell. So another massive thank you to all of you. Smash the super chat, likes, shared, subscribed, and all that good stuff. Stay tuned if you're watching on an after show. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.
What a lovely day!